I'm Brian Jackson. My guest is outgoing Mayor Laurel Prussing of the city of Urbana. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you.
What got you interested in running for politics? What got you interested in politics?
That's a good question. I got involved in a women's group that started recycling in Champaign County back in the 1970s. And we were called HIPS, Housewives Interested in Pollution Solutions. And I got to be the first legislative chairman because I wrote the first legislation. And that took me to the city councils and the state legislature to testify at hearings. And so that's how I got involved, because the husband of the founder, Barbara Anderson, founded it. And she died a couple of weeks ago. And her husband, Jim Anderson, asked me if I would run for the county board. And so my response was, "What's the county board?" Historic response. And then I ran, and I won by one vote in the Democratic primary. So anytime anybody tells you that vote doesn't count, just say there's a lot of elections that are decided by one vote. That was in a county board district, and then later, you think one vote's pretty close, later there was a tie in that district. And that was decided by a coin toss. So there are very close elections, so that answers your question, I hope.
What other offices did you hold, and why did you run for mayor? I know you've had an extensive political career in this area.
Did you say extensive or expensive?
Extensive.
Okay.
Extensive.
All right. Okay. Well, after I was on the county board for 4 years, I decided to run for county auditor, which was the chief financial officer, and my background is in economics. And the gentleman that was the auditor then did a budget, and he just had expenditures. He didn't have revenues, and I thought, well, I think you're supposed to show both. So anyway, I decided to run, and I challenged him to debate me, and he refused to debate me. So I debated an empty chair up in courtroom A in the courthouse. And I want to say I won that debate. And then I went on to get elected county auditor. I was only a Democrat in the courthouse for 8 years, and then Naomi Jacobson got elected recorder. So I served for 16 years as the chief financial officer for the county. And I left to run for state representative, which I won in 1992. But it was kind of a bad district. It was drawn by the Republicans for a Republican, so I only lasted one term. I was the only Democrat that won it in that 10-year time period, but then it got to be a Democratic district, and it's a much better district now. They had spread it out. It was gerrymandered. Helen Satterthwaite was our state representative, and they drew the line around her house to force her into a runoff against Tim Johnson in a very Republican district. So I ran for Congress. Every year there are a few people in the United States that decide they're going to run for Congress. It turns out to be a very expensive thing, and so I really like local government better because it doesn't take all the huge amounts of money, and it's closer to the public. And I ran for mayor because I thought we needed a different mayor, and there was a sort of a running battle between the council and the mayor at that time, and most of the council members didn't want to run again. So they supported me, and I won. And I lasted for 12 years.
Mm-hmm. What were your major accomplishments as mayor, and what were your major disappointments? What would you have liked to got done?
Well, the major accomplishments were leading the city through the Great Recession when other cities laid off employees, and I figured we invest a lot in our employees, and I don't mean just money in our employees, but they're the people that do the work, that provide the services for the public, and they are essential services. Police and fire and public works, if you want to get anywhere in the wintertime, you better have the snow cleared away. So all those are really basic public services. And so I was able to get some new sources of revenue to keep us going, and we didn't fire anybody, we didn't lay off anyone, we didn't furlough anybody. And so I've later learned that usually it's women that think of the employees first, because, you know, there's a big recession going on. Why would we want a bunch of really good people to be unemployed? That doesn't help the recession one bit. So that was one thing that I did. And we got a lot of projects done. I think the main thing I did was create a good working relationship between the mayor and the council. And that's how we got so many things done. We all sat down together and figured out what goals we wanted for the city. And I was the one that pushed to say that our main goal is public safety. And we had a lot of very creative council members with good ideas. Danielle Chenoweth pushed to get a public arts commission, and she's now going to be the township supervisor. And Brandon Bowersox and Charlie Smythe pushed for bicycle and pedestrian issues, and we're a gold city for bicycle-friendly cities in Illinois. We're the first one. We beat Chicago.
What do you see in terms of future projects for Urbana, and what do you see about what's going to happen with the Urbana Landmark Hotel and other projects in the city?
Well, I've always been working for good roads. I was on when I was a county board member, I was on the county highway committee, the first woman to ever be on the county highway committee. I think the superintendent of highways was kind of alarmed. He thought I was going to, I don't know if he thought I was going to have pink road signs with ruffles or what, but anyway, when I was in the legislature, I was on the transportation committee. So one of the big things I worked on was Olympian Drive. It was supposed to go all the way from way west of Champaign all the way to US 45. And the former mayor had not wanted to build it in Urbana because he thought it was going to benefit the Champaign School District. Because the school districts and the cities aren't really aligned. The map was drawn a long time ago. And I figured it was going to be good for Urbana, and if it helped the Champaign schools, that was fine, but I wasn't going to hold up the project for that. So we built Olympian Drive to Lincoln Avenue, and to open up Lincoln Avenue for industrial development, because there's a real need for jobs. This is light industry. And the county board didn't want to do it all the way to Route 45. But we just hung in there and we got it done, and eventually I think it will be connected to Route 45. So that was a project that had been stalled for quite a while. And then the Urbana Lincoln Hotel, the developer that is talking with the city now has lined up Hilton. They have a tapestry collection, which is historic hotels, and they're very interested, and they're willing to operate it for 20 years. I think they have them signed up for that. So it's a question of coming to an agreement with the developer where the city council feels comfortable with the level of support from the city. But I think that people who have stressed the risks are really kind of overlooking that anything you do has a risk to it, and if you don't do something, there's a big risk to that because you're missing out on development. And I think some of the pressure against this project is coming from people who don't want the competition.
Do you see any changes on these two fronts? Number one, the Lincoln Square Mall, and number two, the Sunnycrest Mall. Do you think added businesses are going to be coming into those two malls? Do you see those?
Well, I think if the hotel gets developed, that will really help Lincoln Square a lot. And the owner of Lincoln Square came to the city council and testified to his great support for the hotel. Sunnycrest suffers from the fact that Philo Road used to be the state route, and the state route was shifted to Route 130, High Cross Road. So the city has invested a lot into beautifying Philo Road, and we have new businesses coming in there. And we have U-Haul that is where Jerry's IGA used to be, and so they're filling that up. So the owner of County Market said that they're not selling it. They're going to come back after they get their one in Champaign really going, and they're going to come back with a different concept. But it's always been very hard to have 3 grocery stores in that area, and I think the fact that Meyer has been so successful was probably the downfall of County Market. Although County Market I thought was a very good store. And the people who live around there certainly would like to see it back.
What about like in the northern downtown? Do you see any more, like the north downtown or the west downtown? Do you see any more businesses coming into those areas?
Well, you know, we have an economic report that shows what businesses have come in and what businesses are leaving. And the number coming in is far greater than the ones that leave. And if you look at every commercial area in this city, how it was 12 years ago and how it is now, they've all had a huge amount of development. We have development up north of the city where Napleton Motors is, and Farm and Fleet, and Michelle's Bridal, and of course Soccer Planet. And then every commercial area you can see development. So I think we've done pretty well.
Not too much. What about the west? Not too much in that area?
The west is Champaign.
I mean, West Urbana, like around.
Well, West Urbana is a neighborhood that is very protective of its residential character, and I don't think they want commercial development there. But Urbana's a small city, so you're never too far from a commercial place, and it's not very far from downtown Urbana. And downtown Urbana has just been transformed. There's a respect for the historic buildings. There's also new renovation happening in Busey Bank, which is a new building, relatively new, not one of the 1890s buildings. And so it's a vibrant place, and they're not empty storefronts. There's a lot of development going on.
So you think?
Yeah. So I think we've done very well. I think we have a good community development department, and they work very well with developers. I think there has been this idea that somehow Urbana doesn't like business. That is completely false, and some people just want to push that. But when you look at Champaign, they're probably doing better than any city in the whole state of Illinois. Mm-hmm. And Urbana is doing pretty well, but you're not doing quite as well as Champaign. But Champaign went through a lot of heartaches. Their downtown was being destroyed, and so they hired a consultant, and the consultant said, what you need to do is close Neal Street and have it be a pedestrian mall. So they did that, and it didn't work very well. So they hired another consultant, and that consultant said, what you need to do is take out the mall. So they did that. And now they've sort of found a nice business model, which is kind of based on bars and restaurants. But they've worked on it for many years, and they have it really going very well now with hotel developments and offices in addition to the bars and the restaurants.
So no really known time frame on any of these projects? Just
cities are always working toward the future. Everything that we do, we're planning for the future, especially when you're talking about something like roads. You can't just wake up one morning and say, I think I need a road here. These things take years and years of planning, and you've got to work with your local planning people, you've got to work with Illinois Department of Transportation and the federal government and everybody to get things done. So cities are really interesting, I think, and that's where the services get delivered. If we didn't have cities actually getting the job done in Illinois, we would be in a much worse situation than we are. The state doesn't seem to be able to function very well, but cities get budgets passed every year. They get the potholes filled. Even if you have to pass a local motor fuel tax, which is what we did, what was I going to do? Have the potholes be, donations and say this pothole filled by the Foster family, a little plaque. We passed a local motor fuel tax, and then Champaign followed with a higher rate, and now Savoy would like to be a home rule community, so they could do something like that, because cities are really closest to the public. We know what the needs are. People can come and talk to us and tell us what they want, and we will try to find the money to get the job done.
When the new city council comes in on May 1st, I think there's going to be 3 new members coming in.
Right.
What do you think some of the topics that they're going to be that are going to be talked about?
They're going to talk about the budget, first of all. They're going to talk about what amount we should give to social service agencies. And the 3 new people coming in have been pretty good about coming to the meetings. And I've invited them to come and listen to our labor attorney so they get a background on collective bargaining, because we have 3 unions that we bargain with, police, fire, and AFSCME, which is Public Works. And so I think they're all very bright and very interested, and I think they're getting a lot of preparation, probably more than most other council members in the past have gotten, because they've come to the meetings very faithfully, and they've been invited to sit in on budget presentations with their outgoing council member. And so we've tried to give them a good background, but there's nothing like plunging in, getting sworn in, and then getting to work.
What are your future plans?
Well, I got to clean my house. First, I got to clean my office. That was the real reason I ran, so I wouldn't have to clean my office. But I am faced with that task, and I'm busy getting it done, so when Diane Marlin comes in, she'll have it sparkling clean. And then I'm going to take some time off, but I'm going to keep working on some of the projects I started as mayor. I'm interested in keeping the Police Training Institute at the University of Illinois, because I think they've done a great job with it. And I'm interested in getting adequate funding for 911 systems and changing some of the binding arbitration rules so that a fire chief or a police chief can fire someone without having it be overridden by an arbitrator from Wisconsin or some other state. And those are the things that I'm interested in, so I like working on legislation. That's how I got started in politics, and that's how I'll be leaving.
I think you're going to miss the job as mayor. I think you're
Well,
going to
some
really...
things I will miss, but other things I won't miss. So 12 years is a good long run. So,
What are you going to miss the most?
well, I like the working on the problems and trying to get 4 votes lined up on the council. And I think it's a job where you really learn a lot, and you have to come to it with an appreciation for your own ignorance and your need to listen to what other people have to say. And I think we have very good discussions at the Urbana City Council, and I think the council members respect each other and learn from each other. So that's what I like, and that's probably what I'll miss.
So, any closing thoughts you want to?
Well, I think Urbana is a great city, and I think the local governments here work very well together. There's some sibling rivalry between Urbana and Champaign, but on the whole, we work very closely together at many different levels. And that's why we have one of the best 911 systems, if not the best in the whole state of Illinois, METCAD. And we cooperate on all kinds of things: police, fire, public works, you name it. We talk to each other and we learn from each other.
Thank you very much for appearing on the program. My guest has been outgoing Mayor Laurel Prussing, outgoing Mayor of the City of Urbana. I'm Brian Jackson, and this has been In Focus. Thank you very much, Laurel.
Thank you.